Welcome back. We're talking about what to do about the state's chronic budget deficits. Currently, the state is facing a $25 billion budget cap. While politically unpalatable, many nonpartisan observers maintain that revenues, some type of tax increase, must be part of a solution to fill such a staggering budget gap. To help fill about half of the current $25 billion budget gap, Governor Brown has proposed a special election to vote on whether there should be a temporary 5-year extension of the tax increases passed in 2009, set to expire this summer. The problem, of course, is that most legislators would rather do anything other than propose something that could be viewed as a tax increase. Indeed, virtually every Republican legislator has signed a no-tax pledge before running for office. Grover Norquist, president of the Americans for Tax Reform, has told GOP lawmakers that even a vote to place the question before the voters will be as deadly to their political careers as actually voting for a tax increase. Governor Brown, on the other hand, has repeatedly said that blocking a ballot measure on taxes is undemocratic. He has stated that, quote, "What I'm asking is not for a vote on cuts or taxes, but to let the people decide what is it they want." Well, the question is, why not allow the public to vote on the issue?
The public already has voted on this issue numerous times. One of the things that I looked at is representing the Central Valley and seeing how they do vote on these budget issues, including taxes. And overwhelmingly, people in my district said, this is not what we want. And a special election does not come without a very high cost. I think we can do a lot better. And in a down economy, I don't understand why an increased sales tax that would affect the people who are least able to afford it, I don't understand why that's what's being proposed. We're already near the top in the nation in taxation. That's not the problem.
Well, I think it depends on what data you look at. Some say we're 12th, some say we're in the middle of the pack. It depends on what numbers I think you look at. And that's often very confusing, frankly, to a layperson to try to understand where we are on taxes. There are different taxes that have different impacts. But let me ask the rest of the panel here. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, you're getting a lot of pushback from a lot of the editorial boards of newspapers saying, let the voters decide. What is your thought on that?
Well, if you're going to let the voters decide, you've got to give them more choices. Right now, it's just basically an up or down, and we've taken time to go through the committees and look for those cuts. We've been shot down because it protects a special interest there in Sacramento. But there's opportunities. We should be looking at those before we go back to the people. We're elected to represent them and to do our job, and that's what we're trying to do. Spend the time, make sure we go through the numbers and look for the opportunities, save some money, and not go back to the people for more money. And if we're going to put any options on the table, why not put some more options? Why not give them the option for pension reform? Why not give them the option for regulatory reform? Why not give them the option for something that actually helps create that tax base, puts people to work, which is what people want? And I don't know if they want us taking more money out of their checks, especially when you look at...
Okay, I do want to get to that. I think it's a good follow-up. But I do want to ask, Kristin, what do you think about this issue about not putting on the ballot? You know, the PPIC did a poll, and they found that about 42% want a mix to deal with this problem, mix of tax cuts and tax increases. Only about a third wanted just cuts. You know, a lot of people seem to be supporting in California, not necessarily the Valley, in California, maybe putting this on the ballot. What are your thoughts on that?
I think the fact that the media is often leaving out today is the voters did make a decision. 2 years ago, these very same tax proposals were on the ballot, and 65% of Californians turned them down. And the tax extension proposals that the governor has now introduced are exactly the same as they were 2 years ago, but his don't even include any reforms along with them. The PPIC poll that you're quoting also, when they looked at the very specific 3 taxes, it showed that the support for them was less than 30%. So it obviously depends on how you ask the question, but I think it's so important that if we continue to just tax, cut, and spend in California over and over and over again, we're really not addressing the root of our economic problem. We have to start talking about long-term structural reforms that will help us bring us out of this economic crisis for the long term. And to let the voters decide on something they already decided on 2 years ago is a waste of both time and money.
We've only got about 30 seconds left, but David, I want to come back to you and talk about some of the issues that you said were important to deal with other than putting a tax increase on the ballot. What kinds of issues do you think are important that we should be dealing with?
Well, we've got an administration right now that's actually holding up investment in California. We've got industry in my community, the southern part of my district, that wants to invest in California, and we've got a person there that just will hold it up. Oil industry. Oil prices right now are really affecting people at the pump. I mean, $4, $4.30 for diesel. People can't afford these type of fuel costs, and they're trying to find another way to blame. But when you've got almost $1 billion worth of investments waiting in line in the permitting process because of the person that was placed in the administration's holding it up, that's not an actual solution. We need to put those people to work, let the people invest, and help lower our cost to our consumers and our voters.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, if a special election doesn't happen, or if it does happen and the tax increases are not approved, where will the $12 billion in cuts necessary to balance the budget come from? That conversation in a moment. This is the Maddy Report.